Welcome to Forever Exiled. I'm Justin, aka Tags.
Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Episode 162. 162nd episode of Forever Exiled. We did it.
That was the number.
We were going for 162. Was that it?
Yeah. Done.
Now we're here.
Last one.
All right. Well, it's been a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see everybody in our next podcast where we talk about... What's a game we could talk about?
Age of Empires. We could probably talk about that for 2 weeks. Battle for Middle Earth, probably a month.
Yeah.
It would have to be RTS related.
Well, maybe not. You could. We could find like a decent RPG.
True, but even something as like, you know how I'm a massive Dark Souls fan.
Yeah, doesn't last.
Well, I'm not interested in finishing Elden Ring.
Why?
Think about that. I'm bored with it.
That's because
it's the same. No, it's
you just took too long.
It is big, but no, I'm finding that the exploration of the levels is more annoying than it's fun.
Really?
Yeah, there's that area in the mountains where there's just tons of invisible enemies. Really dumb. Even though you can get a torch for it. The catacombs or the sewers underneath Lindale, it's not fun. And I'm finding that maybe it's just the mood I'm in, but I am way more in the mood for Path of Exile than anything else. I'm in the mood for theory crafting. I'm in the mood for seeing if this idea works. I'm not in the mood for exploring and opening up a Fallout computer in a vault and reading it and discovering something. I just want to see if my build works. I want to kill stuff. Okay, it's working. Okay, it's not. Let's change it. So looks like it's not our last episode.
Yeah. No, that's true. There's always something to talk about with Path of Exile. Plus, we like to talk to each other anyway, so it works out well. This is our catch up. Big shout out, Patreon, new Patreon this week, Vito. Thank you so much for joining our Patreon and supporting the podcast. You are awesome. And to everybody else who supports the podcast, we love your faces. If you're curious what our Patreon gets you access to, it's After Dark, of course, which is our podcast after the podcast where we just continue chatting about stuff and things. Also to patrons, make sure we did send you all a message this week, but make sure your addresses are up to date just because, you know, it's that time of the year. It's coming up and I'm very excited about this one. So make sure if you like physical things that your address is correct.
Let's get physical.
Yeah, because some stuff might be going out this week. Ty and I are doing an in-person hangout this week to get some stuff ready.
I'm busy.
It's fine. It will only be my name on it. I'm going to cross yours out of all of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everybody for supporting the podcast. You are awesome.
Yeah. And even though we wished everybody a thankful Remembrance Day last week, I know when this comes out, it'll be a couple days later. But for us today, Justin and I, today is the 11th itself, so don't want to bypass that. Hope everybody had a thankful Remembrance Day.
And also, if this time, if my mic is noisy or there's banging, I will murder my children because they are busy upstairs. So it's not often that the kids are home on the Friday when we record, but they are today. So
they are today. And they were here yesterday too.
They weren't here for me, but yes, they were off yesterday as well.
Did you kick them out?
I was working, so they were hanging out with my mother-in-law for the day. But yeah, how was your week, man?
Oh, I had a good week. I wanted to thank everybody for the thoughtful inquiries that they had towards my daughter's surgery. It was a minor surgery, but still, you know, anything can go wrong in a surgery. But I think I forgot to update people. I was talking about a week or two past that my daughter was going into surgery just to get her adenoids removed. And it's so cute. And the hospital in our city is just so fantastic, so good. And so there's a package outside getting delivered. The doorbell's going to go. I got a time when I don't speak with the doorbell so you can take it out. But anyway, to let everybody know, thank you so much for all the different messages and support and encouragement. Very thoughtful inquiries. My daughter's surgery went as smooth as it could, and she's recovered perfectly well. She had to do about a week of no exercise, no running, no nothing after the fact. And that sounds familiar. So maybe I did update people. And so that was actually a really rough week for her. But in terms of like anything going wrong with the actual surgery, it was fine. And you should have seen her like the day after, the Saturday, when she was allowed to just be a normal kid again and run around. It was just bonkers. Like it was like somersaults going down the hallway to go get dressed and brush her teeth and all that kind of stuff. And it's time for bed, time to go grab her books. It was just like everything she could do. So it was really cool, really cool. But now that was a thanks. Now I'd like to apologize to all of our lawn listeners. But it's not our fault. We didn't get fall this year, Justin and I. We went from that drought summer to an atmospheric river, which is kind of a trigger for me. My face goes, I start winking weird, and my face gets like half. What's it called? Half stroke. You know what I mean? It's all weird. But anyway, we had an atmospheric river right after the drought, and so much rain, but it was nonstop. And then right after that, bam, winter. It's just like an Arctic flow warning. We have 0-degree weather throughout the day and obviously every night. And so we didn't get to do any of our fall lawn talk for all you lawn listeners.
Well, I was thinking about this morning. This would have been an awful fall to try and plan, because I wanted to do some overseeding this fall. And I was thinking about it actually this morning, that what an awful year to try and do that. Because we went, like you said, it was super hot summer that for some reason extended to like end of September, and then somehow got hotter in October, which didn't make any sense at all. And then literally the last like week, it wasn't even a week, that atmospheric river lasted for like 3 days and just like pooped out all the rain for fall. And then by the first week of November, it was like, all right, winter's here. It's freaking freezing. We had icicles. It was insane. Like it didn't make any sense. And now the ground's frozen. Right.
It was hilarious to see icicles on all the buildings, but all the trees that normally lose their leaves every year are still full of leaves. Like the trees are like, what's going on?
We weren't ready.
But right. Yeah. So it's funny because I jumped on board.
Yeah, you did. That's right.
Right. And so now I basically killed everything that I was just trying to help. It was already there. So anyway, so I tried to overseed parts of my lawn. And normally when I'm overseeding or have bare patches that I'm just reseeding, I only do a section that my sprinkler can reach. Right. It sounds familiar. So my apologies if I'm repeating this. But so let's say front yard, backyard. My driveway kind of splits my two front yards. So I technically have 2 front yards and a backyard. And so let's say I'm working in the backyard. There's stuff on both sides that I want to do on the front and the back. I'll only pick one of them because I'm not going to like take the sprinkler and move it back and do something. Like it ends up being a lot of work. I'll forget that the sprinkler's on. It needs to be done at certain times of day in our city, that kind of stuff. So it's more of a full-time job than it's worth. So I'll only do what the sprinkler can reach. And then once that 2-week session is done of helping that new seed grow, then I'll move it on to another section that I need to work on. And so when I see an atmospheric river come, not necessarily an atmospheric river, but in our area, it's normal for it to just have rain in the forecast every day for 2 months. That's just where we live.
Yep.
And so when I see that in the weather forecast, I'm like, sweet, I don't have to play the sprinkler game, right? Or the patient sprinkler game and make this session last a whole month in total. I can just put dirt out, seed out all over wherever I want it, and the rain will do it, and I don't have to do any work. So I tried to take advantage of that because I saw this rain coming, and I'm like, okay, atmospheric river, that's way too much rain. It could drown out a whole bunch of the seeds, but let's give it a shot anyway. Some seeds are going to grow. It'll more benefit than not. And so I put all the dirt out. The seeds are there. It's like a week into this steady rain and extreme rain and stuff for one of the weekends. I'm just starting to see a couple of the seeds start growing, some of the sprouts. I'm getting ready in the next couple of days. It's all going to be nice, lush and green. And then the ground is rock solid. And I'm like, nah.
That's so
I
weird.
Probably, all those places that I was just trying to help, I probably just killed it. And now it's going to look just as bad as it did before I had the hydro seed in May. So anyway, lawn listeners, there wasn't anything
That's
to talk
what it
about,
is for
but
us.
It wasn't our fault. But Justin's yard guy came and aerated my lawn. So
did he do that before the rain, or
he was waiting until the first dry day after the rainfall?
Oh, okay.
And he was a freaking maniac.
Yeah.
I swear, he had like 500 houses to do in one day
so
before it started
fast,
raining again. So, well,
and that machine is like heavy as balls. It's crazy.
Balls are heavy for you?
Well, heavy balls.
And what else happened this week? Last thing. Oh, right. So the kids had, so Remembrance Day is today. It's Friday. And the kids had a Pro D day, a day off of school yesterday as well. So they only went to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And my son's really close to a few kids. I don't think I had I had friends that I'd hang out with and stuff, but I don't know. I don't think I had really close friends until I was in my later years of elementary school, maybe grade 4 or 5. Anyway, since kindergarten, he has been super close to the same two kids. And so we planned a sleepover for them at our place. Now, he's almost 8 years old. He's 7. He's in grade 2. We had a sleepover with 2 of his buddies last night.
Nice.
Here. Oh, it was mayhem.
Oh, of course.
First,
so fun.
It was the first sleepover they've had without like cousins or grandparents for all 3 of them. And none of them were nervous. None of them were scared. I remember, way back when we were kids, somebody would have their first sleepover at your house and then they'd all cry and they want their mommy and then they'd have to go home in the middle of the night or something.
I don't ever remember having sleepovers where that happened.
No, it wasn't for me, but it would be for someone else. Or, my sister would have a sleepover. And
Sure. Yep.
So anyway, these kids did not care about their parents at all. They were so awesome. Bonkers, but bonkers to the point where I had to be that annoying parent and actually had to be around often enough. I had to. They were so like their brains completely melted, drooped out their ears and fell out. It was it was a lot of fun. But I was telling Aaron after all the boys left, I'm like, I feel like we just went on vacation. And I'm now absolutely exhausted from all the work of that vacation. Like, I feel like we were gone for a week and we just got back.
Yep.
Now I need a day off. So
that's so fun.
But it was a lot of fun to see them, to hear your kids, laughing about stuff that, like,
they wouldn't joke
stuff
with
you're
you.
not allowed to say in the house. Or They're just totally different. And when you hear the stupid stuff that they
it's
laugh
ridiculous.
About, it is so cute and funny. So I really enjoyed it. It was good. But it'll be one of the other parents' turns next time.
Right.
Because that was a lot, especially because like we only have the upstairs available right now.
Sure.
So when they're
it's not
doing
like
the
you can
TV
send them downstairs to just go crazy.
Right. Or it's not like I can go downstairs to do whatever.
Yep.
So it was kind of like I'm stuck at the dining room table.
That would be tough. I could see that. Yeah.
So, well, I mean, it wasn't like it's not complaints, but it was it was an exhausting evening. Like after they left and throughout the day, the kids were really tired. So the kids went to bed early and I'm playing Path of Exile. And it's like, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm falling asleep. And I go and check to see what time it is to see if like it's okay to go to bed. And it was only 9:40. And I'm like, oh, I don't care. I'm going to bed. I got like 2 maps and the day just exhausted me. But it was awesome. So fun to see them play. And they get along well with my daughter. So it was like a sleepover of 4 kind of thing.
Nice.
They were all having a good time. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, how about you? Did you write anything down for this week?
Nope, I didn't. I was having a shower this morning going like, what happened? What did I do this week? The thing is, my week, I was thinking about in the shower today.
So I says to the guy,
they're not, they're quite similar. I tend to be busy through the week with work, and I've gotten better at my evenings now being freed up so I can be more engaged in the evenings and stuff and hanging out at home. So that's been fun. But it literally, we've gotten into maybe the past 3 weeks or so playing card games at night. My daughter, especially, my 2 girls really want to play card games or games in the evening before bed.
Like every night?
Yep. Almost every single night. So they're big into, I don't even know how it's possible, but there's like 18 versions of Uno, which is odd to me because Uno's like, it's Tyler's got his warnings coming up on his phone. Get it done, you lazy bum. It's a holiday today, Tyler. Unless that reminder is to mourn. Come on. But so there's like a ton of versions of Uno. We have like 6 of them, and every freaking time we open a new one, I'm like, oh my god, there's so many. Like, I gotta read instructions for Uno. It should be
with
simple.
Actual different instructions
because they're not Uno. They're not Uno at all.
No,
like we have one game. It's called Uno 99, which my daughter, she's in grade 3. She loves grade 3. Yeah,
which one?
My oldest daughter, Sophia.
Yeah, grade 3.
She loves Uno 99 because in Uno 99 it's an adding game. So you play a card, say you play a 7, the next person to play a card, if they play an 8, now you're at 15, and then you continuously go up increasing that number, and the goal is to not hit 99. You want to try and make other people get rid of their cards, and 98 is the highest you're allowed to go to. You can't make the total equal 99 in the cards. So it's good for her because she does math while she's playing it and adding it up. But Uno is like, when you get down to 1 card, you're supposed to yell Uno. In this game, you never have less than 4 cards. That's not Uno. Why not just call it something else? Besides maybe just going off the idea of like Uno's the name brand, but you never have 1 card. You always have 4 cards. That's not Uno. That's just not Uno. It's not.
They should have called it something else.
And then we have one called Uno Flip. Both sides of the cards have stuff on them. And if a card gets played, you have to flip your cards around, and now you're working off the other side.
And the value of those cards are totally different. So a card that you thought was really valuable that you were saving on one side,
it's exhausting.
You're like, all right, and then you flip it, and then all of a sudden it's like a bland card on the other side, like just a normal 9 instead of like a +4 wild. And you accidentally get rid of it. And we discovered. How did you discover that game? Because I laugh at how we discovered Uno Flip.
We've found them randomly, and they've been purchased for like birthdays and stuff. Like when we see them, we know our kids love them, so we'll pick them up. And we don't really know what they are. Like there's another called Uno Wild, but yeah, was there some special way you found out about Uno Flip?
Not special, just funny. We were watching Formula One. It was only, I think it was 2 races ago, and the 2 commentators. And I mean, we really appreciate English, like UK humor, and just the culture of it. So sometimes, you know, the broadcasters, when we're watching Formula One, they get a little bit sidetracked with the funny conversation that they're enjoying, and they kind of like, I guess. You and I, this is a 99% Path of Exile podcast, but you know, we have a tiny bit of non-Path of Exile 60%. Content. It's the same with them, right. So they were doing the same thing, and then they were talking about referencing something about Formula One and how this was kind of like a game of Uno, like just whatever circumstance was happening. And then one of the other commentators, but have you ever tried Uno Flip?
Oh, really?
Because you could get like 30 cards in your hand. He's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, but you could have 30 cards. And anyway, their whole conversation about Uno Flip, it was very, very English, the conversation. It made us laugh a lot. And so we picked up Uno Flip because of that conversation while watching Formula One. And it is a lot of fun.
And he's not lying when he says you could have 30 cards in your hand. The first time we played it, like it's a game where you play and then it's based on points. So the idea is to play multiple rounds to try and get to 500 points. The first round took like 30 minutes because there were so many people playing these cards. Pick up 5, which means you're skipped. Like my wife and son literally had a quarter of the deck each in their hand at one point. I was like, we are not playing this again. We're not playing a second round of this. This took way too long. But anyway, so we've been doing that every night. And I did bring my PlayStation 5. I took it out of my kids' playroom upstairs and brought it down into my office so that I could play the new God of War. Because the new God of War just came out, Ragnarok, and I love the
I feel like they just came out with one not that long ago.
It was a couple years ago, but this one, I really like the God of War games. They've always been a lot of fun, and so I was like, I actually wasn't going to get it, and then I was talking to a guy in my office, and he was like, yeah, I can't wait to play it. I'm going to be playing it with my son, and he's excited, and I'm pumped, and this is happening in it, and I was like, damn it. So I brought it down into my office and got that. I haven't had a ton of time to play it just because it's been busy, but it's a lot of fun. It's hard to get used to playing on controller though, because I don't play on controller often, and there's a lot of combinations of buttons, and I have to. I mean, it's just the nature of not playing on console in a long time. I have to sometimes look to remember like which one's circle, like, and I've gotten to it now, but it literally took me like 2 days of playing to remember where the buttons are.
And for you as an infrequent controller player, most of the time you're probably playing with an Xbox controller because of how seamless it is when you're playing on PC. You just plug it in and so it took a little bit, but it's been a lot of fun. I was thinking about it today. I couldn't remember if it was you or my brother that also plays inverted. I play vertical inversion, not horizontal. Right.
So, and I was thinking about that today. Like I couldn't play because you have that option. Obviously, that's the first thing I changed was to make sure my Y value was inverted.
Yeah. Okay. I remember you being inverted, but I was just about to say, if you're not inverted, this is done.
No, I have to play inverted. And I was thinking about, I'm like, how do people play these games? What made it so that we play inverted? I couldn't think of what it was. The only thing I could think of is maybe from
Halo.
Was it Halo?
The original Xbox days. That's the only game that I can think of. Man, I sucked at Halo. Oh my goodness, did I suck. Did it default to
inverted? Like it had to have, because
I don't know. But I was made fun of for not being able to choose, because both, like I would try one for a bit, I'd finally get used to it, then I'd try the other, and then it screwed me up.
I can't play not inverted, and I'm trying to think of why, and the only thing I could think of is maybe we played like flying games on the controller in the beginning, and flying games are always inverted, right? Where down is up and up is down. But I cannot play games not inverted. So anyway, yeah, you know,
horizontally though, right?
Oh my god, how would that? Why is that even an option? Who could play horizontally inverted?
The guys that do, it was sent to me in Discord, and it was so funny. It wasn't going to be a talking point of the podcast, but because you brought it up, I didn't write down who sent it to me, but it was hilarious. Those guys that they of course have the Dark Souls videos, but they have, what are they, League, what are they called? Oh crap. They make these hilarious videos of like what it's like to be an NPC.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know who they're called, but I know what you're talking about.
Right. And so they had a really awesome Dark Souls series as well, which was hilarious. And so they had the Dark Souls guy in there and then the main guy in there. And they were doing a thing on inversion. And really? It was hilarious. Yeah. But,
anyway,
okay, so
I have to play inverted. But otherwise, it was just busy. Yeah, it was a good week. I've kind of resigned myself. I had a meeting this week and I was like, work's not going to ever slow down. So it's time to adjust because it shouldn't be busy right now. And it is. And so I'm just going like, this is the new norm. And so I'm going to deal with it. We finished the 3rd season of the Handmaiden's Tale last night. And I was so stressed at the end of the 2nd season. Like what was going to happen?
Our Discord friend that said it sucked at the end of season 2. I think it was a YouTube comment who said that they stopped watching at the end of season 2. So I was like, what could it be? What is it? And then we watched it, and I was telling my wife that the end of season 2 actually made a lot of sense to me, but I don't know the situation for the person who made the comment, but both of us were saying if you weren't a parent, it would be harder to understand the end of the 2nd season. And because I don't want to say anything with spoiling it, but if you weren't a parent, I could see the end of season 2, you going like, what? Why? But then both of us were like, yeah, I'd have done the same thing. So, so we finished the 3rd season and it's been fun. It's just mostly because we get to hang out in the evening. So it's just chill and quiet and it's been good. That's nice.
Yeah. What do we got?
Oh, yeah. Santa thing. I'm going to count down, and then you have from the time that I count down, it'll be 10 seconds. Okay. And then you can turn back on for listeners.
Are you wrecking things again?
Kids in the car. You can't wreck Santa, Justin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Justin's probably taking this out.
No, you're interrupting. They have 10 seconds. We got the kids little things that they could hold stuff in the cards for when we play Uno Flip, and there's 10,000 cards. Hopefully that was under 10 seconds.
You also could have just said, so for Christmas, we got them
this week in PoE.
Yeah, what do we got?
It's a thing that goes somewhere.
I understand that, but you didn't have to say it goes somewhere.
That didn't
you
cross
just
my
said
head. That's like saying to someone else, why didn't you go on this route instead of that route when you were driving? And the answer is because there's a cliff at the end of this one,
and that one's nice and sunny.
If the GPS told me about the cliff, I wouldn't have gone.
What happened this week in PoE? What do we got?
It's like my wife comes into the kitchen. Why are you cooking it that way? Why are you cooking it that way?
There's a good chance
doing it this way.
She knows better.
Because there's another way to say it, or my brain didn't work that way, and there's only enough for one family member in the kitchen, so get out, because I was here first. This week in PoE, Fareth from our Discord got a mirror to drop.
Oh,
Mirror of Kalandra in Mayhem.
In Mayhem.
And love it.
I love
absolutely
what they did
love
with
it. So exciting. It's so... I mean, obviously it's discouraging that a mirror drops in a voided league, but
take it to Reddit.
It is. No, it's gonna happen, and you can say you had one. They took a screenshot, which hopefully they're gonna save.
That's better than getting it on console.
But you brought it up. I absolutely love the freedom of what they did with the Mirror of Kalandra because it was a voided league.
Yeah.
So here I clipped a little post they did. So here's Fareth talking in our Discord. Well, I can now confirm that you cannot mirror portal scrolls or any other currency that I have tried.
I love first off that they tried. I hope they started from the bottom up too.
That's right. Yeah. And then transmutes and then chaos orbs. But you can, in fact, mirror maps. And that's pretty neat. They have a picture of the map that they mirrored, but it's just a normal tier map. Like it's a white map from tiers 1 to 5, whatever it is. And they just took a picture of the mirrored icons there. So congratulations, Fareth, for getting a Mirror of Kalandra, but then being epic about it.
Yeah, the best spend ever.
You made a lot of us laugh. So that was pretty awesome.
In addition, I have to say, I think my favorite part about it isn't even the fact that they mirrored a map. It's the fact that they attempted to mirror a portal scroll. That was probably my favorite part about was that at some point they right-clicked a mirror and left click the portal scroll. I just love that.
and then when it's like, oh, okay, that didn't work. It tried everything else in their currency stash tab.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, very, very good. And I love that it wasn't an Exalt first.
No.
It was a portal scroll.
Portal scroll first, because you got to know.
That's right.
You got to know.
Why not?
What would a mirrored portal scroll take you to?
Wouldn't that be awesome if there actually was a thing and all of a sudden this funky looking portal shows up
Took you
and
to the
that's
cow
the
level?
real answer? That's not as good as the real Kalandra level, though. What if this whole time you could have reached Kalandra's realm by mirroring a portal scroll?
And it wasn't a lake. It was actually a wide open area.
A void.
Of just enemies and loot.
And riddles.
And riddles, of course, riddles.
Hey, not bad.
Yep.
Write it down, Nick. Write it down.
Take that.
So this is kind of funny. We are getting to PoE talk. I think we already started, but I raised my hand and like pointed when I up in the air when I said, write it down, Nick, write it down. And I was expecting, so in our Discord chat with video, I'm on the bottom and Justin's on the top on my screen. I was expecting my hand to show up in your screen. And I was like, what's going on with my computer? What's so wrong?
I can't get my arm in the right spot to show where you're there. Match that.
Oh, hang on.
Yay. We're so stupid.
That was so weird. Justin was pretending.
I was pretending to be his arm.
Okay. That was weird. So anyway, then there was Mayhem Twitch highlights, which I always enjoy seeing some of everybody that's better than me fail or succeed or get excited about something.
I heard it was pretty crazy in maps.
Yeah. And I mean, they said right off the bat, GGG said right off the bat that, you know, these events are going to be for everybody. They're going to be stupid hard and good luck and have a good time. And so it's really fun. When, you know, because there's always going to be people that are complaining and whining, or it's not for them, or you forget that it's not made for you, that it was supposed to be an event for everybody. And that's easy to do and get all mixed up. So it's really fun when some of the Twitch highlights that are posted are of people having a great time when they fail. Like one of them, I forget who it was, but they were playing hardcore because they were using a macro to escape really quick, but they didn't hit it in time. But they were like, oh no, did I hit it? It wasn't like, oh, I didn't hit it in time. It was like, oh, I didn't hit it. No, did I not make it? Oh, and they were having a good. So I like seeing some of those, and I'm glad there's the exposure out there for some positive fan play.
Nice.
So I got a question for you. We have a sweet news hub in our Discord for all Path of Exile news.
Yeah.
Whether it comes from their website, their Twitter, Bex's information, whatever it is. I saw something on there that said Jinx is closing down.
Yeah. I think they posted about it too.
I didn't see a post on GGG. I didn't see a post from Twitter. I didn't see anything from GGG. I could have easily missed it, but I didn't see anything. That's legit then? Like Jinx is closing down?
So I didn't do any digging into it, but the post that I saw, I thought was by them.
Because I didn't see anything on Jinx's website either, though. Oh, no, there it is. When I clicked on it originally. All right. All sales final. After 23 years of celebrating nerdy. Yeah.
So I think because I don't think it's Path of Exile's commitment with Jinx. I think it's Jinx itself.
Yeah, Jinx itself is closing down. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So when I originally clicked on it, that wasn't there. So Jinx is officially closing, and so PoE merchandise is on sale until the new year. So not bad. Just in case. When I originally clicked on it, the sales weren't enough to tempt me, unfortunately. But I think it would be really cool to get some. And then you know. What I was thinking, though, is I'm hoping I hope they get on a new store quickly. And I really hope they add a little bit more than just t-shirts. Like I really want some hats. I think hats would be awesome.
Yeah, you're gonna
I
have to go to
also still
Exile
like
Con
my
for
original ideas.
They can sell them easier. I agree with you, but it can be more GGG-ish where they like, yeah, and it's what's the word? The word that's selective, or it's more
lame,
esteemed to have them.
Now you have special ones for Exile Con. You got to have some normal hats available for people. Come on, it's a hat. It's a hat. But I still like my original idea, you know, having those torches for your garden that automatically light up as you walk by, right? Kind of like in the Val areas.
I feel like you could probably buy those online.
No, not these ones. Not in the exact shape of the Val culture. Okay. And then I also want pens. But if they're going to hear any of this, hats.
Or flip-flops. Just thinking about our conversation.
The easiest
earlier.
part about the flip-flop is you just need a little icon on the flippy-floppy part at the top, because the part that goes under the feet and the part that touches the road, they're all going to wear out. So all you need is the logo. made of solid gold.
$45.
Okay, I'm out. Those are, what are you trying to, like, what are those, like, going to be Havaianas? Oh, man. And then the support packs are finishing up and the Keurig Vault Pass. But there was something in there. I want it. I love the support pack that I got. I absolutely love it. It was gifted to me, which was, I'm very thankful for. And it would have been the one that if I had the money, I was going to buy that support pack anyway. But there was one thing that I really liked in the other one, and I really hope it turns into like a normal store thing. It was when you explode on death, or you explode when you die. But that was part of the $90 tier. So that, like, never.
You had to get all the way to the 90 for that?
Yeah, that was the last one.
Oh, dang.
And so I absolutely love it. I'm always goo gaga, over the support pack that I got. But I am hoping that, like, the explode on death bit is something that they, not necessarily the same one, but
comes back, something like it.
If you explode on death, that'd be something that I would save my points for eventually.
Yes, please add more on death effects, GGG. We would love it.
Character on death effects. Don't jinx it. What, that you're like that one person that's like, yep, and they're like, okay. So no, that was that made me laugh when I clicked on it, and that was one of the things that was on the primary, marketing video there. So did you read, they did another streamer interview, which I absolutely love. I love that they do this. I think it's fantastic to support your community just with recognition. They've done it for us a few times, not like the streamer interview bit, but how they'll have like the podcast posts, and they've been up there. I love that they do that. Love that they do it specifically for streamers. And so this one was Subtractum. Did you get a chance to read it?
No, I didn't. I think I've seen him a few times stream. But I do appreciate that they do these too. It's kind of cool to get a background into who the people are that are playing their game. Did you read it?
I did. And I've seen Subtractum as well. Now, again, Justin and I aren't the type of people that sit down and watch broadcasts, so we're never going to have a lot of experience with seeing these. But every single time that I've seen Subtractum, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, by the way, but just been positive, upgoing, never one of the broadcasters that's popular, but with like a negative image or a condescending image, you know what I mean? Just very kind, upbeat, positive. So glad that they had the opportunity for the exposure from GGG themselves. So love that you do it. Keep on doing it, GGG. Love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the big thing, now this is big news to me, and I could talk about this for the rest of the podcast if you're up for it. They had upcoming news schedule. Did you see it?
I did see it. My very first takeaway from it was like 5 balance manifestos. Holy crap.
Well, 4, possibly 5, but yeah.
Well, they said we'll post 5 balance manifestos. They said we will post 5 balance manifestos. So we'll see.
Well, when you see the drop down menu and it has like the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it does say
the 5th one says potentially a 5th post, which they'll probably will be because based on
then don't
feedback,
lie to me, GGG, and say we'll post 5 and then say maybe 5. Honestly, it's just unacceptable.
But I thought that was crazy. Like, so maybe time's flying faster than we think, but it's only November 11th today. It'll be the 13th when this comes out.
We're still a month away, yeah.
They said 2 weeks before Christmas was the league launch, right?
Yep,
is that what they said?
There. Well, they just said something like that.
The end of the first week of December is roughly ish, right? However that's going to work. But they did say it was something like 2 weeks before Christmas. So we're just under around the 1 month away.
Yep.
And we're already getting dev manifestos. Like when they say, and again.
Well, we're getting an announcement of dev manifestos.
Right? But you know what?
We're not getting dev manifestos yet.
I had a post on Reddit this week about
a
detail that was added. That was about a detail that was added, a very good detail that was added to the game in 3.19, but it actually disheartened me for PoE 2 going forward.
Okay.
And despite the fact that I had a post this week about being disheartened about it, this kind of stuff still gets me excited. Like, to me, when they're posting and it's an announcement for an announcement, it's like Christmas for me. Christmas is in November. No matter how discouraged or disheartened I am, or if there's a direction that I love and then a direction that I don't like, just the possible changes and the hope that it's something that makes this game even more in line with what I consider fun in Path of Exile. I absolutely love it. But it's crazy. Like, next week will be 3 weeks away from the league launch.
Yeah.
Estimate. And the balance manifestos are coming out. The league used to launch on our Friday. we'd get the balance manifesto on Tuesday and the patch notes on Wednesday. Like it used to be 3 days. Now we're like at 3 weeks, which, hey, no complaint. I'm all in, but I'm excited to see what it is. Like most of these things. So there was jewels and ailment mitigation, jewels and ailment mitigation. That's an interesting combination there. So I'm curious what that tie is.
Well, I think those are 2 individual things,
but on one post.
Yeah.
Curses.
Maybe they're just not big.
Eldritch or maybe those are 2 separate posts. Eldritch Altar revamp, Arch Nemesis, and then potentially a 5th post about other changes. Like I didn't actually see any one of those coming, despite the fact there might be clamorings in the community for it.
Did you really?
I'm surprised because, for one, like to me, jewels isn't a problem right now.
Well, okay, so whatever of them all, sorry, only one of them really was like I knew that they were going to have to do something Arch Nemesis related, but yeah, okay.
But I didn't think they would. That's why I'm still surprised. Because to me, Arch Nemesis is one of those things where like, this is staying in the game, people, and we've already had it in the game for so long, and all we've done are tweaks. We've lowered the value
but that's of this still a development manifesto. Right. Talking about what you're planning for it.
But making further changes, if all you're doing is tweaks, that's not a manifesto. A manifesto is something is changing, not just, okay, and we're lowering this and we're lowering that. I think the only, so anyway, I was surprised because to me, just a small tweak in 30 skills.
I didn't think it was going to be just a small tweak to like numerical values. I'm hoping that there's an actual, keep Arch Nemesis if you want, that's fine, but do something where it does need something to make it better. It's a bit frustrating. It's totally got a weird ramp, and we've talked about that before. It goes from like very, very, very difficult to like, what? Who was that? And that doesn't play very well for me.
See, to me, I have my hopes for sure, but then that doesn't mean anything's going to change. So I was surprised to see that Arch Nemesis is there. Now, do you think that it is going to include difficulty and damage scaling and mods, or do you think it's going to be mostly about drops?
I think it will be both. And I loved what they did with drops. We talked about that when they first announced it. How cool is that to have them? But the whole loot, the goblin loot idea from like D3 that people talk about happening, I don't like that at all. So I would love to see that shift. But more than that, even more than that, I just want to see some system set up where there's a checks and balances against what modifiers can roll with what. I would also really love them to just accept the fact that they don't need 80 Arch Nemesis modifiers and take out some of the just garbage ones. I don't think that will happen, but I would really like to see some sort of system in place where there's a checks and balances. You can't have all offensive or all defensive modifiers rolling because it just isn't very fun. Right. So I would love to see them cut them down, but I don't think that's going to happen. If they add some, then I'm going to be like, oh, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, right. Watch. Okay, so we're making them harder. There's more randomization options, and this, that, and that. Yeah, watch.
Can you imagine like when they came out
opposite of what we want?
When they came out with 3.0, I think that was when they introduced all the extra. Was it 3.0 or 2.0 where it was like we're going from 4 acts to 10? Can you imagine if they're like, that's their big selling feature of 3.2? We're going from 80 Arch Nemesis modifiers to 160.
That's right. Yeah, there's 10 more acts in the campaign.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm that's probably the only manifesto I'm excited to read, to be honest.
Oh, dang.
Curses. Okay, so do you want to go through jewels and ailment mitigation?
I want to say more about.
Don't care.
I want to say more about Arch Nemesis before we move on.
Go ahead.
I know we've talked lots about Arch Nemesis because Justin and I have had pretty similar opinions on it. So sorry if it's always seems like a one-sided show. Justin and I don't always agree on things, but when you have 2 hosts that agree, you'll have to provide the other side of it, the devil's advocate per se. So I don't remember if I've mentioned this specifically or if it was on Reddit or wherever, but I want Arch Nemesis to revolve around the base type of the enemy. So
yeah, you've said that. I just disagree, but I know what you're saying.
Oh, but I think I want to know the base type of the enemy. I want to know who I'm fighting. For the most part, I don't care who I'm fighting because the game's too busy. All I'm trying to do is glance at which Arch Nemesis mods are there and try and focus on the scary one at the time, and if I can find it at all. But I want the Arch Nemesis mod. So let's say I'm fighting a spider. Okay, a spider is naturally resistant or weak to this and that, and they can only get modifiers that improve that. If I'm fighting an enemy that already has cold damage, it's great. It's just weird to me that they can have like flame strider. So now I'm like, they're fire and cold, but I don't like, to me, if they have flame strider, they're highly resistant to fire. But if they're a cold style of base type, they're supposed to be less resistant to fire. I don't know. Like, I'd like there to be a little bit more focus on the base type. And then it's like, okay, the mod isn't multi-tiered like you've discussed that you're not a preference of, but it would be like increased life or cold damage. So now it's that same enemy, but now it's like this mod adds cold damage. So it's the exact same enemy with the same skills. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it would be cool if Arch Nemesis didn't give them extra skills, extra powers. It just made their current base type skills stronger. So they would be more resistant to something, or they would have a higher health pool, or they would have cold damage added to it. And then you would get used to the base type of the enemy, and you'd still be scared for what they are, but you would actually start caring about which type of enemy it is in wraeclast. And because there are some really cool ones in there. So anyway, that's kind of how I wish it would be.
Devil's advocate to that?
In 2 seconds. That's how I wish it would be, having played 2 leagues now of Arch Nemesis. I want to care more about the enemies and have the influence or the mods on those enemies actually be valuable to the base type. Go.
Okay. I would rather them, because I don't mind the idea of a mob having a different type of skill. I think that's the idea in my head, is they've been buffed or whatever. But what I would rather see is the Arch Nemesis list drastically reduced, and then it's a much clearer visual indicator of this person has, you know, a fire buff or something. But Arch Nemesis will never ever be sort of the way I look at it, because I want it dummied down way severely to what it is. I think there should be 1 to 2 things at maximum that affect an Arch Nemesis modifier. And I think that there should be like a 1/10 of how many Arch Nemesis modifiers there are. I don't think there needs to be, if you want to introduce this like randomness of all these different things, then do it with mobs. Don't do it with modifiers. Make new mobs in the game that have different skills. It's really hard for somebody to argue the fact that there's too many types of mobs, right? If they introduce new mobs that do different types of damage, maybe ones that do sort of some of the Arch Nemesis type stuff, but that's not a random roll on a mob. The random roll on the mob is like one of these 10 things that is, sure, you know, some sort of buff to the mob. But the only problem I have with the idea of the mob itself being buffed by things that make sense to the mob is if you're doing a map that's like, say, sea witches or undead or something, then there's no diversity to what you're fighting, because they all do the same stuff. So there's no difference to what you're fighting. You don't have to think about it too much. But I would rather just see more types of mobs that do different types of things, and the modifiers that come from Arch Nemesis is much, much smaller, and they're very apparent. It's not a surprise to what you might be fighting, but it'll be interesting. That's of the 5 that could potentially come, that is the one I'm most excited to read.
Well, what if going back to that Sea Witch example, like there's still a lot of modifiers that can impact a single mod or a mob, and it's not, and it still provides a great amount of variety because of the amount of mobs that there are out there and the amount of modifiers that there are. For example, like you get increased area of effect as a mod that can roll on Sea Witches, and that's terrifying to be melee in there.
Does increased area of effect any Arch Nemesis modifier?
No, but I'm saying like you actually add modifiers that make sense to the game, as opposed to just creating these completely crazy random new skills that you have no heads up on. So you get increased area of effect, and all of a sudden these novas that a group of 12 are providing are just insane. Or you get, you know, maybe there's another aspect where it's like increased projectile speed or multiple projectiles, but like those are actual mods as opposed to the map mods. But yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from, but no matter which direction they go, the visual clarity for me.
Yeah, it needs to be cleaned up.
Well, and it needs to stand out in today's game, not tomorrow's game. Right? Like, we're still going to be playing this game for 1 or 2 years, and you need to be able to see it. I think like the magma barrier one, that's a good visual skill, but it to me, it's like, it's the dumbest one, despite the fact that it has the most visual clarity to it, because I can't do any close range to it. I am terrified it's going to blow up, and then all of a sudden there's these orange balls. Like it's not choosing which character it's strong or weak against. It's just strong against everyone, unless you're just a glass cannon.
The blow up
just
animation is
terrifying
at
to me.
least long, but it's still not. I melee is not in a great spot because the best ways to play melee right now are ranged.
Right.
They've got some range to their melee, and they keep adding like increased melee range to the tree and to different items, and it's like, well, at some point this is not a melee character anymore. Just because you call it a melee skill and they're using an axe, it's ranged. Yeah, I'm not sure what the fix will be to that, but it'll be interesting to see.
Now, they did mention or emphasize a bit that these manifestos aren't all the changes that are happening. They're just kind of the mechanical things that they want to give us a heads up on, but there's of course going to be more changes than just what the manifestos state. If melee was to change this league, do you think that would need a manifesto, or do you think that's just something that shows up in the patch notes because they're just going to be buffs or whatever, right? It's not. Well,
they said they're tweaking melee. They said they may hint at them in the manifestos, and then covered that they said specifically about tweaks to melee. So
was that in that same post? I missed that.
Yeah, it says, for example, some tweaks to melee may be hinted at in these manifestos or covered in the 320 announcement, live stream, and or patch notes. So they're just saying some changes like tweaks to melee could be hinted at, but it doesn't sound like they're coming out with anything specific towards it, unless it's part of something they want to hide and then reveal in 320, which
yes, that's right.
Cool.
That's right. They are still trying to keep their.
Yep,
that's right.
Which
but
I
manifestos are kind of, I don't know. That's interesting. So, all right. So Arch Nemesis, we're both hoping for changes, and hopefully they're in line with what we're looking for. I'm curious to see what GGG is willing to change on the direction, of course, thinking of what, like one thing that I've been definitely trying to emphasize to myself is Path of Exile 1 is going to turn into Path of Exile 2, from my assumption, when Path of Exile 2 comes out. Like you can't have, because they're going to be two separate campaigns that lead to the same end game. You can't have dramatically different play styles and gameplay, and then all of a sudden you meet at a shared end game. So they need to be the same, as from an assumption if things are still going with the way that they originally announced. So lots is going to change in their focus for Path of Exile 2. They probably aren't wavering as to what their gameplay for Path of Exile 2 is going to be. They probably already decided. They're just working hard on actually dotting their I's and crossing their T's. So I'm curious, as that goes along, what is Arch Nemesis going to be to them in Path of Exile 2? And so as we have our hopes and dreams, all we can see is how it's impacting today's game. And they're making long-term choices for this. So it's exciting to see what it's going to be, because even if it's not what we're hoping it's going to be today, it's all right. It's giving you hints as to what Path of Exile 2 is going to be like. Little thing there. Eldritch Altar revamp. You care about that? I think that's a great idea. They're a little.
I like them. So
do you?
Anything they do to improve them will be good. I do like them.
I avoid them.
Why?
I find they're
hard. But I like that.
Well, I for the type of player that I am, I don't find the pro and con option to them beneficial. Very rarely am I like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that one. That con is worth the risk. Most of the time I'm like, oh, not a chance. Not a chance. I find that I'm a lot more inclined to use them when I don't roll a map, when I'm just doing like a white T16 as opposed to an alt T16, because I have a hard time actually visualizing realistically what that list of alt or vald mods are like in a map. So when all those map mods are there, I dumb it down to it's a deadly map, runaway lots, or yeah, I'll be fine. None of that impacts me. Like I just kind of do that math. And a lot of the times I die because I don't, I'll see like projectile speed or attack speed and cast speed and multiple projectiles or chaining or splintering, whatever it is. And I'm like, it's fine, whatever. And then I'm dead every time. So to me, when I do the Eldritch Altars, it's just more of those that changes the original mentality from when I started the map. And a lot of the times I've already forgotten that mentality that I was supposed to remember throughout the map duration anyway. So I'm excited to see what they have to say.
I think Eldritch Altars to me are very much like Arch Nemesis in that they're very build dependent for me, and they will eventually get to the point where, for the most part, if I can build my character the way I want, I don't have to think about it. Like it goes from being quite difficult to I just know to hit that because I'm increasing my chances of getting better loot. So they're something that for me is way, way, way more endgame. It's not something I really focus on doing while I'm building up the Atlas or building up my character. but I have played them before where I've put huge focus into them, and it is a lot of fun, but it is way harder. You have to really like plan your build out for certain stuff because some of it gets, and you also have to accept the fact that some of them are just trash, like being sapped on hit and, you know, hindered with spells. It's just, some of them you're just going to be annoyed if you click on them. But I do find they do have a good positive to the con, but it's so insanely build dependent. It's not like everybody can just click them, which that part sucks sometimes, because that's the same idea as like where you're modifying a map to all of a sudden you can't run it. And some of the Eldritch altars are like that, where some builds just could not click those options.
Yeah. And I mean, that sometimes that makes sense because, you know, let's say you're the Jug and you can't be slowed below base speed, or the Trickster, I guess, has the same thing, right? I mean, then you don't care about whether you're sapped or not. You're just going. And so that one's a fantastic one. But I do hate the ones where, I mean, with altars, it's different than map mods, because you 100% have the choice to completely ignore it and life goes on. And I think that's fine. So if you had something like, I always go back to Righteous Fire and the amount of map modifiers that suck for a Righteous Fire character, but you don't have that option unless you have a ton of currency. I mean, goodness me, especially when you're trying to do the whole Val map thing, like, But when it comes to the Aldrich altars, when you have these really stupid modifiers, that's fine. Yeah, it's your choice to click on it, and you can completely ignore it, and that's fine. Okay, so you had one wasted altar in the map. Life goes on.
It just sucks if that's what you focused on your Atlas. It can be disheartening if your focus on the Atlas was towards them. But the Atlas, I actually think, is very good at saying this might not be a good idea. This is going to be harder, and if you choose to click it, that's one thing I love about the Atlas alt, or the Atlas passive, is it's you chose to do it. So if you can't do it or you're not liking it, you can always respec it.
Any guesses to what the revamp is going to be? Like how you
not
could
even
revamp
a guess.
That?
Not even a guess.
Isn't it funny how it works? Like when this has happened to me many times in the past, but when they say revamp, I'm like,
has there been?
But it can't be any other way. What are you talking about? Like, this is the only way it could be.
Reddit chatter about it? Like, I don't read any of that stuff, so I have no idea.
If it's not something that interests me, I don't normally bring it up. I only comment on that. So on stuff that interests me. Yeah. So interesting, because a lot of the times I'm like, what do you mean it can be a different way? Who's this creative mastermind that can actually revamp this? So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
All right. What's next? Jewels and ailment mitigation or curses? What do you care about?
Well, Jewels and ailment is an easy. I don't care. I'll read it, but I don't care. I don't know enough to be like, well, this needs to be fixed. I do what you want. I'll read it and be like, okay, cool.
Ailments are really strong. Like enemy ailments on us are really strong. The game, to me,
but are they trying to make it easier or harder to get 100%? Because people can still get 100% ailment mitigation. So I don't understand. Is the idea it's harder than it used to be, but is the idea to get it back to where it's much easier? The thing is, if you make it easy for people to get rid of ailments, then just get rid of ailments. And
Agreed.
if you're and then if the idea is that if you don't have 100% ailment mitigation, the game's too hard, then maybe you need to decrease the effect of the ailment. Like, I don't like the idea of saying, well, we're making it easier now, and then it's the whole like the current aura situation with determination and defiance. Like it becomes the direction you just have to go. You need the 100% ailment mitigation, otherwise it's not going to feel good in the end game. If that's the case, then either you need to decrease the effect of ailments or you need to remove them. Don't make it easier to get 100% ailment mitigation, because then that just feels like, well, like I have to do that. I don't understand why have the ailment if the goal is to force people into getting 100% mitigation.
I agree. Completely agree. I think right now ailment power is my problem. See, to me, a lot
enemy
ailment mitigations right side of the tree. That's an east side thing, right? That's fine. I like how the tree is separated and that certain classes have a much harder time to get to certain other aspects or mechanics of the game for the sake of defenses or offense. I like that. But to me right now, 75% elemental resists is nowhere near enough, and that's where the default character is capped. And to me, that doesn't make sense. To me, ailments shouldn't be terrifying when you're at the default cap for elemental mitigation. Now, granted, there are other ailments as well, but it's how do you stop some of these other non-ailment mitigations that aren't even covered by basic defense types? You know what I mean? So I think there are some gaps there for sure with some of the non-elemental ailments. or chaos. I'm going to include chaos because to me, chaos resist and elemental resist in terms of ailments do function quite similarly. It's more of the physical ailments that have this kind of question mark to them.
Do ailments base anything off of your resistance? Like, is the damage you take from an ailment, does it respect at all your current resist?
As far as I know, my understanding is, yeah, for both chaos and elemental resist, that's why I'm coupling them together. They do focus on that. Whereas stuff like armor, that's different than physical damage mitigation because armor is only against hits, right? Whereas now you're starting... Now, again, I might be wrong. Things have changed, and so I don't know. I could be out to lunch, but as far as I understand it, stuff like bleed or corrupted blood, which are different, but the same, but they're different, those aren't hits. So your physical damage mitigation from armor doesn't impact that. Whereas something like if you're stationary and you're taking damage and you have, so you have something like Arctic armor or endurance charges, those, you know, when you're stationary with Arctic armor, you have less damage taken. And so that would impact your physical ailment mitigation because they're not hits. It's just less damage taken, kind of like something. Yeah. So anyway, stuff like that. So I could see kind of like a little gray area in there that would be nice to fix. But in terms of just the like elemental or chaos ailment mitigation, it would be nice to see those damage values lowered a bit from the enemy or from map mods, because to me, 75% shouldn't be terrifying. Like, you've worked to get there, and if that's the cap that the game has set, like, that should be okay. Not like apathetic where you don't care. There still should be a great value in going higher, not just for offensive purposes like Righteous Fire. But if you have 79%, let's say you're running the purities. Right now, I feel like I have to run the purities just so that I have time to get out of elemental mitigate, some sort of elemental situation with ailments. And like all of my builds, I'm like, but how do I get that extra 4% from the purities? How do I get it? Because I just feel like 75% is nothing. So I think that's what I'm hoping for with that ailment mitigation change, is that maybe their damage is a little bit less, but not too much, just so that 75% is actually feasible amount, enough time for me to hit a flask or whatever other mechanic they have.
That'll be interesting to see. Jewels, I don't care about.
It's wonder why they coupling it with jewels. Maybe
they're both small.
I don't know.
Maybe they're not related at all. Maybe it's just too small.
Yeah,
hopefully it's not the ailment mitigation on jewels. I hope that's not what the manifesto is about. But
or maybe there is a lot of mitigation on jewels and they're putting it to the normal tree. I don't know, something. Curses are a big deal to me because that's always been, well, I guess it's a big deal to both of us because it's always the hiccup when it comes to co-op. I remember Theta was helping me one time in a boss fight, but it was my triple blasphemy character, and Theta couldn't run their curse, which was where a lot of their offense was coming for that specific build. And so I had to, but I couldn't turn off. I had to run away because that was where my defense was coming from. My survivability would dramatically be reduced for that. So, you know, the co-op ability of curses has always been something. So hopefully that's something that's getting touched on. We've tried to, in the last billion years, come up with a good way to deal with that. And it's been quite difficult without the on-hit aspect of mechanics. So maybe that's something they've come up with, but hopefully they're not getting rid of temporal chains.
But the solution is get rid of temporal chains.
It's not. And I hope it's the
only thing that affects a mob that is like a global effect, because it's actually slowing them down. Whereas you could use other, literally, I think actually every single other curse is possible to affect the mob only for you. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how it's possible.
Enfeeble and temporal chains, I think, are...
Enfeeble's not. No, Enfeeble just affects the damage. That would be your own thing. It would still be your own. Whereas temporal chains is physically changing the speed of the mob.
So you're saying if they made it so that curses only impacted...
Or specific to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I enfeebled somebody, then they would only be weak against me. Right. So if they did add that, you're right. Yes. Then temporal chains is the anomaly. Yeah. And that would make me sad. That would make me quite sad. But I guess there are many other ways to slow enemies down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they say, because it's just curses. It's like they don't give any other, help as to where they're going with that. So that one will be an interesting read as well. More so just because I'm curious if they're actually trying to make them somehow more friendly. Maybe they're trying. I don't actually know if curses need to be strengthened. I feel like curses are actually relatively strong.
Yeah.
So hopefully they certainly shouldn't be decreasing them, because curses require quite a bit of work. You can't just run 2 or 3 curses easily, not at all. You're either sacrificing slots or you're sacrificing points on the tree, and
they are spread out.
Like,
they're spread out. They're still relatively north, but it is spread out a decent ways. One thing that I think they could do, but this would just be for me as a curse lover, is there isn't a lot of curse efficiency on the tree. There's very little. And if you are going for curse efficiency, you are going occultist. It's just night and day compared to other things. So if they found a way to make it so that, and I get it, that's how ascendancies work, but if there was a way kind of like what they did with the necromancer, this league with unnatural strength, if they could do something similar for the occultist so that there was a few other ascendancies that would make sense for a curse efficiency character, I think that would be cool. Because right now there's it is quite a small percentage of curse efficiency on the tree. And if you're not the occultist, which more than doubles that curse efficiency from the regular tree, you're going into small clusters.
What are you getting at a curse efficiency?
Well,
what does that actually do?
It improves the value of it. So,
okay.
Let's say your temporal chain slows enemy by 29%. You know, you could slow
the
it by 39%.
Efficiency is going to increase them. Okay.
Right. And so it is really cool on some of those things where it's like despair is one of my favorite offensive curses for that, because of the added curse damage on enemies. When you increase your curse efficiency, you're increasing that added damage. Punishment is another one that I absolutely love offensively, especially with increased curse efficiency, because you're increasing the amount of damage enemies take, which is huge. So yeah, I really like that curse efficiency. But outside of the very small percentage that's available on the tree, it's only small cluster jewels after that. So
I would, my hope would be to just, if they can't find a solution, which I can't think of one in my dumb head, dump temporal chains and find a way to make curses affect just the player. I know that will probably affect people who play in groups and they have like, you know, whatever, the Ourobots and the people who are specifically maybe cursing. I don't know, maybe that's a thing, I'm not really sure. But I would love to be able to play with another person and my curses are for me and your curses are for you. And I'm not playing to curse for you. You know what I mean?
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah. Another neat thing would be if they added some sort of support gem to that, where you were choosing if you were cursing for the group or you were cursing for yourself. Like,
yeah, the only problem that still comes with that though is the total number of curses an enemy can have on them. Because if you play that, then what happens with my curses? If your curse affects the monster, but so does mine now. Because in the way that I'm saying, the curse modifier amount that you could have would only ever affect you. I don't know. I think it'd just be fun to find a way to make curses efficient, because the only way I can play curses with you is to make sure I'm playing an on-hit curse. That's the only way. There's just no other way to do it. Self-casting curse, nothing else will work because there's too many things fighting for it.
It's just overriding each other constantly.
Yeah. So which it does anyway with the on-hit, but at least I get the benefit of the on-hit curse effect. You know, your curse might overwrite it right afterwards, which is fine, but I still am getting the benefit of the on-hit.
Yeah.
So I would like to see it. It would suck to see temporal chains go, but maybe they could find another way to, you know, it would be different to me if you were casting, if temporal chains maybe wasn't a curse, it was a spell. And it was like, I know you would hate that because then it would be self-casting or some other way of doing it, but it was you were actually like chaining them or something, which was it wasn't cursing them. You were
like,
actually chaining
I'm the Spriggan?
Yeah, that's right.
The stupid eggs and the stupid vines? Yeah. Okay, fine. I 100% on board if they remove temporal chains as a curse and they turn it into this, and they can call it the stupid Spriggan skill.
That's
gem.
right.
And then I'll just be throwing eggs everywhere and then it'll explode by surprise because the enemies can't see it because the screen's so cluttered.
Yep.
And vine them or whatever it is, bind them.
Yeah, it'll be fun to read them. I'm looking forward to it. They're always interesting to read. As long as it's not giving away too much. This to me wouldn't be giving away anything because I don't watch the reveal to be like, oh my goodness, they're giving a 20% increase. You know, that's not what they do the reveals for. So this is kind of okay.
Right. Their surprises are like when they go from a regional atlas system to a global atlas system, right? Yeah. You don't need a manifesto for that. You just need diapers, right? It's like, okay, everybody got their diaper on. Okay, here you go. This is for that. Yeah. So It is. I'm curious to see what's going for. Everything to me, I know it kind of bugs you a bit, but everything to me is like these decisions, these implementations aren't temporary. Everything's moving forward to Path of Exile 2. These are changes that they've thought long and hard about. Well, just how often
I just don't want that to be used as the excuse. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah, but I know you're right. Of course, the changes they make are certainly going to be with the thought in the background of like, all right, you idiots don't know why we're doing this, but just trust us. I just don't want to hear that because
sure. But I don't mind that though. But with well, no, if they called
me
an idiot,
if I knew the release date, sure. If we knew like, hey, it is coming out December of 2024, that's totally different to me than it's coming. You know what I mean? Like
that's ExileCon. You don't get that date till ExileCon.
Maybe at ExileCon. But
that's
then
this summer,
to me,
right?
it's different.
Like 6 months away.
Yeah, it's in July. That's different though. If there's a specific date that we know already, like, okay, this is the date it's coming out, then it's very different to me to say we're making this change because it will affect, we have to make sure it works with PoE 2 and PoE 1. I don't know why, but in my head, that's way different because I know this is the day. Right now, we've heard since ExileCon 2019, it's coming.
It wasn't 2019.
2019.
No.
Christina pulled up pictures the other day. She's like, what? Why were we at the airport in November of 2019? And I was like, we were just coming back and COVID, we went to Vegas after that and then COVID kicked in. So we've been hearing since November of 2019 that it's coming. So that's for me, I'm just like, okay, awesome. I'm excited. I will play it obviously when it comes out. Just don't tell me right now the reason you're making changes is because of that, because that has currently an end date, the letter N, the in graphics N. There's no number. There's no set thing that we know. So once we know, then to me, it's a lot different.
That's funny. To me, it's all the same. But it is, to me, it is exciting because my assumption is that these decisions are for, it's not like the future of the game when 3.0 is released and you're like, okay, it's just more Path of Exile 1, more Path of Exile 1, which was still exciting, of course, but because you know that there's a grander thing that's revamping the game, and this is part of that revamp, it is exciting. Now, any hopes or dreams for the possible 5th post that might be needed at the time?
No, because I don't like manifestos. I like the release and the patch notes. So no, I don't. Do you?
I can't think of anything. I'm surprised by all of these ones, including Arch Nemesis, because I thought they were just gonna, I don't know, kind of like Wisdom Scrolls, just stick with it. So whatever it is, I'm excited for it, but I can't think of anything. I probably could go back 2 episodes and have a list of 5 extra things.
I'd love to see them say that we're not going to restrict private leagues anymore because of a silly boss kill event. That'd be fantastic.
There's a manifesto for you. We're going to make a manifesto for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So it's pretty cool.
Did you play this week?
Next week. I did. Do
you
want to bother with it?
You gotta tell me. I took already your last topic away, so
good.
knock yourself out.
I'm excited for that topic though. I kind of wanted to squeeze it in anyway, just in case it's actually something that comes up in the manifestos or patch notes. But I don't.
They won't be out before next week.
All right. So
you can say it in After Dark.
All next
week.
You
can say it in After Dark just in case you can be like, I said it. And if you're listening now and you want to hear it, come into After Dark.
So I had a post on the Path of Exile website and Reddit called The Great 19 Edition that disheartened me for Path of Exile 2.
You're such... Oh, you wrote a book, guy.
I didn't mean to. I thought it was going to be short. But anyway, it was just all about the... No, don't bother. I've already said it 100 times on the podcast anyway. But it was just about, like the same mentality of releasing something as an incomplete package. Right. Like, and it was about, again, minions and not being able to check the resists. And that's a broken record on this show now. But because they added a mechanic like, okay, now you need to micromanage your minions a little bit more. And there actually was, I don't think I've ever said this. So I do actually want to read this one part of it. There were a few things that I actually quite liked. I like the changes they made to the tree this league for minions, the extra items that drop, the roll rates with which these items have minion mods on them, and even the idea that minion resists are always all elemental resists. You don't have to find individual elemental resists for minions. Like, I think all of that is fantastic, and I love every change that they did to minions, with the exception of, now that I have to micromanage their resists a bit more, I need somewhere to check that, because minions all have different types of default stats, right? Like zombies, for example, I think they have 40% natural, 40% elemental resists, whereas SRS or they don't, right? I mean, goodness me, bring up any Spectre. Spectres have never had support. You have no idea what those stats are. If an enemy has 50% physical conversion to lightning or not, or whatever, right? So, you know, it just hasn't been around. And so when you have a gem like Animate Guardian that actually, from like way back in the 1.0 days, that on the skill itself doesn't say loses your items on Guardian death. Like there's nothing in there that tells you lose your items, which is a massive deal. But that's been in the game since 1.0. And so, I mean, every single patch they come out with has the opportunity to change that, right? You get to something a little bit more recent. SRS has been changed multiple times. You used to be able to, remember the days when you could have 50 SRS on the screen?
Yep.
That was awesome. They had a longer duration, but it was 50, and then they shortened it to 20 with a 5-second duration. So SRS used to be 50% physical conversion to fire, but there was nothing on the gem that said that. And then when they revamped the gem to be 100% physical damage to fire, they still didn't change the description. So it's like, you know, an old mentality of, I don't know if it's time management or what, but this old mentality of an incomplete package, right? Animate Guardian doesn't even have a UI for you to check to see, be able to compare rare items or anything like that. So you have this old system, old mentality, whatever it is, but there's still remnants of this old or apathetic, or we're fine releasing something with an incomplete package. There's still this old mentality that's showing that started from the 1.0 days or way back when, but now when the minions get changed again this time around and there's still nothing to check them out on, it's kind of like, it's just reminiscent that if they're still making decisions like this, if they're still showing incomplete packages, it's kind of like, it kind of in a way disheartened me a little bit for, well, today they're making Path of Exile 2. And the decisions they make today, the attitude they have today, that's what's going to be in Path of Exile 2 that comes out tomorrow. And so when I see this new stuff come out today as an incomplete package, it does kind of dishearten me for Path of Exile 2. And so that was what that post was about. Not a lot of people saw it or read it or cared about it, even got downvoted, but all of the comments on it were kind, compassionate. Some disagreed and didn't, but yeah, there were very kind notes. The exact same post, but on the Path of Exile website had the same kind of good discussion, whether it was agreeing or disagreeing. So I was quite happy with that. But it was more of a discussion point, because obviously I'm going to be excited for Path of Exile and the changes that come no matter what. But it was disheartening to have that again as an incomplete package based on what I said. Outside of that, my Path of Exile world, I did some extra theory crafting while I was hovering over the boys at their sleepover this time. I had the laptop out on the dining room table in my sweatpants and was just checking out different things. You know, I was talking about an aura bot with someone on Discord who was mentioning, you know, playing with a new friend. They're new to the game. What kind of build should I do? And I was just saying, well, this is, you know, because I've been playing with Chris, right? Chris with the CH. No, wait, Chris with a K. Our Chris was with a K. GGG's is with a CH. I'm starting to get that mixed up. And I'm starting to call our Chris with a CH. Ooh. Anyway.
Well, you're getting old.
But it was like, you know, kind of what kind of build you want to do. Everybody's different, right? Do they want to just get a strong build and carry through and experience the game? Or is the game for them experiencing items? So I was kind of like going back to my build that I originally designed with Chris. And I'm like, okay, do I like this original setup? How supportive do I want to be? What do I want to get them to focus on? And so it was kind of fun to have that discussion and then re-plan my kind of champion, not really an aura bot, but kind of, just to give them some elemental support with some of the purities as they go through and figure out items. I spent like 2 hours trying to revamp that thing, and the conclusion that I came to is that the original one that I had at the beginning of the night was still the best. The one that I designed in 317. So
sweet.
Yeah, no, it was fun. And then I played a lot with the zombies. I'm still doing that. I'm in Act 7 or 8 now. I think I just killed Arakali in the league, the big spider boss that eats what's his name? Silk. I love that the spider, the visual team put Silk's head on Arakali's body on this little spike in the front. I think that's awesome. But yeah, so I'm still doing that, slowly leveling that. And if we didn't have a sleepover, I would have been able to play for about 3 extra hours last night, but went to bed quite early. But the kids were watching me play a bit. They on the nights where they don't have school the next day, we let them sleep wherever they want together. And so they chose the living room. They were hoping I was going to play Elden Ring, but I played Path of Exile. And but they especially my son, but they have a lot of questions. He was like, exploding zombies, how cool. Okay, well, how? And so he was actually very curious. So I showed him how minion instability, like the keystone on the tree. And then he asked why I don't have a lot of skills. And I said, well, in this game, you know, you can choose to have 24 buttons to hit if you want, or you can choose to only have a few. But then these gems, instead of being other active skills, you know, you can make this one gem stronger. And so then I showed them Infernal Legion and Minion Life and Fire Pen. And you could just see my son's brain like, oh, that's awesome. So cool. My daughter, she gets it all, but she's just kind of like half in that world and half in La La Land. And so she's
like, where's the spaceships?
Yeah. No, she really enjoys it. She really enjoys it as well. But she's a quiet learner. Whereas Oliver, you can hear the gears grinding. So no pun intended, awesome. But now pun intended. So anyway, yeah, I had a good week. I assume you didn't play this week, right?
No, I did not. Hung out on Discord a little bit and worked. So let's wrap this up. Episode 162, Forever Exiled. I'm Justin AK Tags.
Tyler Recker of Days.
Thanks everybody for hanging out. Patrons, we're going to catch you in After Dark. Everybody else, we'll see you next week in episode 163. If you're looking for more information, you'll find it down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. We have a very fun Discord, which you should be a part of, so join anytime. And Patreon and other ways to support the podcast, you'll find them down below and on our website. Bye.
Bye.